Alrighty, friends. I know I'm a few months late to the Ted Lasso party as the series just wrapped up back in May, but you know what? I'm an Enneagram 1, so sometimes I gotta get a little frustrated before I finally voice my opinion on some trending topic. And y'all, I got a little frustrated with people mistyping Ted Lasso. First off, I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan and have been since the beginning, so much so that I even made a pit stop in Richmond when I was in London a few years back, just so I could visit that iconic street corner by Ted's house. And second, I've studied the Enneagram for over 10 years now, so it's starting to bother me how many popular Instagram and YouTube Enneagram accounts just don't know what they're talking about. And by mistyping fictional characters like Ted Lasso and the whole cast of the Avengers, they may gain some followers, but they perpetuate these superficial stereotypes and common misconceptions about each Enneagram type. Ted Lasso is not a 3. He is not a 9, and he is most certainly not a 7, which I have seen everywhere, including Truity, which claims to have had their typology clinically reviewed by Dr. Stephen Melendi, a therapist with far too much time on his hands. This just goes to show you how much superficial stereotyping drives popular opinions on Enneagram types, even from people who claim to be quote-unquote experts. They see an upbeat, energetic character that's got a silly sense of humor and just go, oh my gosh, he's gotta be a 7. What else? Who else could even have any of these traits? So, with that rant out of the way, let me explain why Ted Lasso is the perfect example of an Enneagram type.
Whistle! Whistle!
Oh, hey there. Before I give you the answer, can you do me a huge favor and just hit that subscribe button or the like button if you're feeling non-committal, or both if you're feeling tremendously supportive?
Sure, what the heck? Why not?
Oh, thanks, Ted. As I was saying, Ted Lasso is a great example of an Enneagram Type 2 helper. And here, Dr. Stephen, are 3 undeniable reasons why. First up, let's talk about Ted Lasso's most iconic personality trait, and that's his unrelenting positive energy. Ted is a huge ball of encouragement, affirmation, and inspiration, which can be summed up in the most iconic image of the entire show, which is the believe sign. 2s are in what's known as the positive outlook group of the harmonic triad, alongside Type 7 enthusiasts and Type 9 peacemakers. Long story short, all positive outlook types want to drive themselves and other people towards positive emotions because deep down, they hate dealing with their own negative emotions and are experts at numbing their past trauma by obsessing over silver linings, pretending nothing bad happened, or just distracting themselves with lighthearted humor and various social activities. I would guess that this trait is where 99% of the confusion lies with people mistyping Ted. But it's important to remember that from the start of the show, Ted is dealing with a fractured marriage, deep guilt for leaving his son in another country, and the repressed trauma of his father's suicide. And yet, he wears a big old smile at all times, so no one has any idea what's going on inside of him. This is the epitome of the Enneagram 2's unhealthy ego message that tells them they can only earn love by stuffing their own needs and avoiding their deep pain in order to serve those they hope to win over. The only time this positivity breaks is when Ted is forced to confront his negative emotions, which then leads him to become far more aggressive and confrontational. 2s in what's known as their movement of disintegration take on some of the traits of the Type 8 challenger when they feel unstable, stressed, or insecure. Think of it like Ted all of a sudden becoming Roy Kent. And there are several key moments where we see this happen. First is when Ted is pressured into going to therapy.
I mean, you say you're only interested in the truth. Yet here you are, charging an hourly rate for only 50 minutes of work. Like I said, it's bullshit.
And second is when Ted finally confronts his mother about all the ways she failed to care for him after his father's death.
Thank you for all the small, silly little things you did for me as a kid, like hiding notes in my lunchbox or putting googly eyes on the fruit at the supermarket just to make me laugh. And fuck you for not working on yourself or seeking help after we lost Dad.
I actually think that the framework of thank you and fuck you is a great way for 2s to finally speak their truth while letting go of this desire to look like some unrealistically noble, upbeat person. Okay, it's time for my second point, which is focused on Ted's sense of purpose. Ted's purpose as a coach is a major reflection of his Enneagram 2-ness. Ted's goal is not about being the best, like a Type 3 would want to be, or a desire to have some self-gratifying adventure like a Type 7 would enjoy. In Ted's own words,
for me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field.
Ted's whole life is about having a positive impact on the people around him. And 2s are the most naturally oriented toward people and nurturing relationships of all Enneagram types. Yes, social 7s can be very servant-oriented, but they would be highly unlikely to endure the spurn of someone like Nate as gracefully as an unconditionally loving 2 would do. Ted is constantly serving, affirming, and building up those close to him, be it bringing biscuits to the boss, giving advice in his support group, aka the Diamond Dogs, and including those that would otherwise go overlooked or get taken advantage of. The average Enneagram 2 is so fixated on serving those in need that people often make cliche jokes about them that sound something like this.
Don't look at me. This one popped out and immediately asked the doctor if he needed anything.
Again, the 2's ego is defined by the need to be needed, which, when mixed with their constant wave of avoidant energy, can make them kind of overwhelming to be around, which sort of seems to be the main issue in Ted's marriage, as we hear in his phone call with his wife at the end of the very first episode of the show. Ted's wife seems to want space, and 7s tend to give their partners plenty of space, if not too much space, as their sense of purpose drives them out into the world trying to accomplish multiple goals at the same time. 7s just don't tend to smother their partners like 2s do, because finding a need to meet just isn't a part of the 7's sense of purpose. Okay, I think I've proven my point here, but I just want to add one more clip of the scene where Ted explains how he still has a perfect 5-star passenger rating on Uber, because it's another great, albeit over-the-top depiction of his Enneagram 2-ness.
How the fuck are you a 5?
I don't know. I'm tidy. I say please and thank you. Sometimes I'll offer to drive if they look tired.
Okay, time for my last point, which is how the people in Ted's life are actually a reflection of his Enneagram 2-ness. You can tell almost everything about a person by the people they choose to surround themselves with, and Ted endears himself to all kinds of people, as AFC Richmond is pretty much the United Nations of soccer teams, or football teams. Enneagram 2s take pride in being able to love people from all walks of life, be it aggressive people, cocky people, deceptive people, at least at the beginning, lonely people, timid people, awkward people, invasive people, and, of course, downright weird people. Oh, and on that note, let's take a moment to zoom in on the most important person in Ted's life, and that would be Coach Beard. If you know anything about the Enneagram, then it should be pretty easy to guess Coach Beard's Enneagram type. Have you got it? Bingo, the Type 1 reformer. Nah, I'm just kidding, the Type 5 investigator. Coach Beard is quiet, intelligent, thoughtful, quirky, and, of course, super into psychedelics, which is actually becoming a trademark Type 5 personality trait at this point. Just look at Aaron Rodgers. I'm sort of kidding. Anyway, Enneagram 2s and 5s go together like peanut butter and jelly, and it's one of the most common romantic pairings that I see when it comes to Enneagram relationships. It's the old opposites attract, as you've got one introverted thinker and one extroverted feeler. They also have this interesting connection point at the Type 8 challenger. We see Coach Beard's movement to 8 when he calls out Ted for getting too caught up in protecting Roy's feelings, when he should be thinking about what's best for the team as a whole.
How do you not get it? Losing has repercussions. We lose, we get relegated. We get relegated, this is over, and we will have built nothing. And if you want to pick a player's feelings over a coach's duty to make a point, I don't want to drink with someone that's selfish.
Ted's empathy for Roy makes it difficult for him to do the right thing, and being blinded by compassion or empathy is a trademark Enneagram 2 struggle. So there you have it. Ted Lasso, an Enneagram Type 2 helper. Okay, folks, there's a lot of rich Enneagram theory tucked within the statements I've made throughout this video, so if you want to take a deeper dive into the 9 Enneagram types, then I've got videos linked for you in the description below, as well as floating here on screen. I really hope you enjoyed this Ted Lasso typology, especially you, Dr. Steve, and if you did, please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button on your way out, and once you've done that, I will look forward to seeing you again on another episode of You've Got a Type.
See you later.
Yes.